they are stolen from their family, and they are treated as well in the process of trafficking. They are treated as slavery, and some even are dead. This is totally against human rights and is an abuse. So, in this regard, the legalization of prostitution, which encourages human trafficking, is is not uh, is not deserved by our society. Moreover, with such an encouragement of prostitution, the adolescent prostitute will become more popular, and some people even will, uh, some lady or some young girl will treat it as a profession and will become prostitute even when they are not adult. This is against our current law of crime, and this is totally a crime. With this legalization, such a contradiction will make our legal system a mess, and which is not allowed. So in this regard, we believe that the legalization of prostitution will do much more harm to our society than benefit. In terms of the morality arguments, I would like to my lower house those to give some more extension on these points, and I think I finished my speech. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that speech. Okay. Oh, and Michael's here. Hi. Sorry about starting without you, but hopefully you'll be fine, member of government. Right, moving on to the Deputy Prime Minister. They'd like to start their speech whenever they're ready.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the previous speaks by my colleague and by the oppositions. So I first want to respond to the previous opposition's argument based on my previous colleague's statement, which emphasized on the regulation roles in legalizing the prostitution. So fundamentally, we believe that regulation is the key to legalize and to stable this situation. And to respond to opposition's first point about the worth of the prostitute, we don't think that due to the legalization of the prostitution, the human trafficking will be increased. We firmly believe that human trafficking has been the case for many years, regardless of legalizing or not legalizing. But under a regulated way, we can ensure that this can be managed and to avoid those human traffic which is implemented in a very dangerous way. So by regulation, we can make the whole process more manageable. And the second point that we would like to respond to the previous speaker is about treating the prostitute like a slaver. We know that in Holland or UK or other countries, they have done a great job in legalizing the prostitutions. So there is a way to not treat people like slavers. It's all about the management. If we can manage the process, those human rights of these prostitutes can be protected as a normal people. And the third point we would like to respond is about the young people. So we think that the young people also has the right to prostitute, even though they are young. If we look at those relationship between husband and wives, we normally find that the more girlfriend or boyfriend that you make, the more stable your marriage will be normally. So it really gives you some experience of liaising or get some taste of different relationship. I think this is a a good phenomenon for the young people
to information.
to explore more taste during their early stages. So coming to our own point, we think that the prostitution can really decrease the rape rate. For example, in large country like China, the gender ratio is quite striking. There are a lot of boys who are not able to find girlfriend or a wife in time. So for these people, if they can have the opportunity to prostitute, it will be quite beneficial for the society because because they can decrease the rape rate. This has been backed by evidence. So when in the previous years, when we allowed the prostitution, the rape rate is decreased or was decreased. So we think this is the one key benefit for the whole society, and also for the nature of the prostitution. Prostitution comparing to drug trafficking as well as human trafficking is just a small potato. There's no pollution of prostitution. There's no noise. You don't need to build a big house. You don't need to involve a lot of capitals. So actually, by nature, the prostitution is an environmental high return business, which is benefit for the society. And lastly, I would like to mention is about the human rights. Think about those people who have a high social positions or are wealth. They are not necessarily rejecting the prostitution. They can keep a lot of lovers in a very, very secret way. But for those people who have no money or due to what kind of reason they haven't married yet, how to protect their right? This prostitution actually provides them a perfect opportunity to exert their right in this scenario. So we think from a human right perspective, prostitution provide foundations to achieve the human rights for a certain vulnerable people who are in a weak position in this. And I also would like to add that...
Sorry, it's 5-minute speeches. I think it's almost coming up to 6 minutes, so I have to stop you there. But nonetheless, thank you for your speech. Usually I'll stop taking notes like 15 seconds after the time, so I didn't really record anything you said after 5:15, just for fairness reasons. So if the Deputy Leader of Opposition can start their speech whenever they're ready.
All right. Thank you. I'll first begin by clarifying the reasons for our side's rebuttal against the government's position before going to our main points. So the main points of rebuttal would be the government seems to adopt a highly amoralistic or immoral stance, if I may, in order to stuff government coffers. As well, we would like to question the morality behind all the decisions. And lastly, I would also like to point out the deep links between narcotics, which have been acknowledged by the government as very harmful to society, the deep links between narcotics and prostitution, before I go on to my main points of ethics as well as health. Okay, on to the first point of rebuttal. So one of the points that was raised was that, yes, you cannot control this industry, that regardless of whether the government is in for regulation or not, it will be there. But in fact, legalizing it is not just taking it from the hands of the triads as well as gangsters and putting it into the hands of the government. It actually serves to enlarge the pie. We are actually talking about international entrepreneurship right here. Even in the case of the Netherlands, as you have highlighted, PM. For example, in 2018 and 2019, there were reports of narcotic gangs from Morocco that actually went out of control. So it shows that even in Netherlands, which usually is one of the good case examples in terms of control, it has not been under control. Moving on to our main points of ethics as well as health. In terms of ethics, we on the opposition side find it highly problematic that young people, especially adolescents, as mentioned by my colleague, might find that prostitution may be a very viable career choice in the future. And if you were to treat it as a regular profession and to have unions to protect it, or to even advocate for the expansion of the vocation, there's nothing to stop it from enlarging the pie, which is our biggest problem, which we find with legalizing prostitution. Furthermore, on the point of ethics, we also find it that it's a problem. It's commodification of the human bodies. It's not like other services industry. This essentially is putting one's body as the object and the subject of consumption. Moving on to our point on health. In terms of medical care, yes, the Prime Minister seems to be very concerned about medical care. In the example of the Netherlands, there's the doctor beside the prostitute. We do also advocate for the health and protection of prostitutes, which on the opposition side we view as victims. Yes, we understand that there may be prostitutes that willingly enter the industry, but we also have to acknowledge that there are those that are forced in the industry. And regardless of whether it's forced or whether they're willing, we want to protect them and we don't want to further victimize them. That's why the opposition leader, as well as myself, we advocate for decriminalization of prostitution, but the criminalization of the prostitutes' customers. So visiting prostitutes should be criminalized in order to shrink the industry to its minimum. And yes, we do acknowledge that the industry will always be around. Even if we ban it in terms of visiting prostitutes, it will be there. But at least with this arrangement, it will be kept minimal to its minimum size. And yes, we will be protecting those that are most victimized in this industry. And also, we want to conclude on the last point that we as a government have the job to signal what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. What should our citizens be fighting and vying for, both as a career as well as a society? We argue that for our society, we don't want to be like the Netherlands, where it has become a hub for sex tourists, for lack of better terms. Whether it's the import, actually, of international prostitutes, some countries of which my colleague has highlighted, or whether it's the attraction of people that are here just to consume drugs as well as to indulge in prostitution. We have a duty as the government to protect our citizens and to chart the course for our country. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that speech. Just finishing my notes. Yeah, if a member of government wants to finish the debate, that'd be great.
Right, that's me, right?
Yeah, that's you.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you very much for that speech. I'd like to begin with a couple points of rebuttal. First, I'd like to summarize some of the concepts I think I understand from this debate so far. It seems as clear that there's a moral tension in the argument. The opposition believes that the commodification of human body is something that is wrong. They believe that actually the state should control what a man or woman can do with their body, and actually men should not have that choice. It's clear that they believe that they know better than people. And I'd like to present a different take to the debate. I would like to present a much more favorable view of human nature. I'd like to present that perhaps people who partake in the prostitute market perhaps have much more of a noble reason, perhaps don't necessarily do it because they've been cajoled into it. But first, I'll concede that there's deeply problems in prostitution. There's problems in terms of exploitations of young people. There's problems in exploitation of poor people and people from underprivileged backgrounds and subcultures. But that is the case for many of the capitalist market that we deal with. That is the case for those who fly over to the UK to pick fruits when they're on the car. That is the case for illegal Mexicans working on cash in hand. That is the case, across board, and that's no reason to ban prostitution. And I don't think that the argument that of international entrepreneurship is a reason to not engage in this quite elaborate scheme to free many people, because it is the case that I can't remember my own writing, but I think the point I was initially trying to make is that with international entrepreneurship, there is going to be exploitation involved anyway. But with I think this points have been raised before, with a well-regulated market, we are going to reduce this. We take away power from the black markets and obviously the pimps and traders. But more importantly, actually, we empower the men and women who are the prostitutes. Why? Because when, for example, the examples we were given, a person who's been trafficked from Thai to the UK to work legally as a prostitute, feels trapped in a country that's foreign to them, feeling they're doing an illegal work, they're less likely to come for help when they're actually in danger. They're less likely to perhaps seek contraception when the health might be at risk because of the fact that they might be scared that they might get deported or put in prison. But if you give them the safety net and you allow for this trade to be legal, the pimps and traders have less of a power. If anything, the workers have more of a power. We empower them economically, we empower them psychologically as well by not demonizing the trade. And what is the moral argument here? Why are we saying that, commodifying our body is wrong in terms of sex? Do we not do that already? Do people not watch porn? Do people not sell their images through Instagram ads as influencers, showing all types of very, very attractive flesh? What is wrong with that? Or are we going to ban boxing? Are we going to ban any sports that utilizes the force and the physicality of human beings to make money? What is morally wrong about a man or woman selling parts of them for some money? What is wrong about that? We do that.
Point of information?
Sure.
So we believe that two wrongs don't make one right. So on the opposition side, if pornography is wrong, it shouldn't be used to support the case of prostitution.
Great argument. First, of course, two wrongs don't make it right. But if you are going to be genuine about this case, then perhaps you start banning every other thing first that already do exist. And secondly, I think that actually that's wrong. If we introduce pornography, if we introduce prostitution in a legal sense, we're actually going to provide a remedy for many of the ills that pornography cause. One of them is body dysphoria. Many people watch pornography, seeing these perfect bodies, and they think the girlfriend should look like that, and they shame girls that don't look like that. They don't understand different types of crevices or private parts of different women. If we legalize prostitution, people are going to have access to real women and understand what the real body should look like, and not have this fantasized sort of like Photoshop version of it that the studios in Pornhub make. So actually, I think this could be good for society, much more better than porn already is. I'd like to close by saying that the healthy attitudes which in the increase of which legalization of prostitution can provide in society could be the actual greater good here. We're going to basically effectively allow people to look at themselves and be able to accept that, hey, we are sexual beings and we should not feel bad for feeling sexuality. And by taking away the criminal aspect of it, this becomes a non-issue. There might be a decrease in people using prostitutes, but there will definitely be a decrease in crime and trafficking and the black market of prostitution. And on that basis, I think that there is a great argument, a great chance that we shouldn't miss here to try to combat these ills of society that goes against our human rights and perhaps reap the benefit socially in this instance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that speech. So I'm just going to go through each speech that we've heard in the debate and say what I think was good, what I think could have been better, and to give you an overall sense of what could generally result in you improving in future debates. Okay, so Prime Minister, first speaker. I think you gave quite a good structure at the start of your speech, saying you define prostitution, you give your mechanism, how you're going to ban it, or how you're going to legalize it, rather. And then you clearly said, these are what my points are going to be. So, yeah, so that was a good start and like a clear structure that was just convenient for me judging. On your first point about health, you mentioned